Well, hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So, tomorrow, well some of you today I suppose, but either way less than 24 hours till the meta change. So we're going to talk about the meta for Gladius circuit weeks 3 and 4, and boy this is actually going to be a rough one. It's quite straightforward, it just says Invade, Kinetic Absorption and Energize. Basically, both champions have 100% block penetration and 300% attack while hitting a block. So that is how you are able to do significant amount of damage just hitting the block. Additionally, attackers tracking defenders block with a basic attack gains 4% of their max power. So that's you. So you can actually get your specials only hitting opponent's block. And further on, Energize. Defender's combat power rate is increased by 50%, which actually makes this significantly more tricky because if you are going to be giving opponents more power, they're going to get more special attacks, which means you inevitably will have to evade them. And therefore, let's take a look at some of the MVPs for the next meta. We can start up with Yelena. She is insane everywhere. She's crazy good offensively, she's crazy good defensively. Offensively, a 6-star can take out just about anybody with like 2 level 1s. Just crazy. And her level 1 is such that you can actually get away from opponents safely. And defensively, she's an absolute menace as well. So, there you go. Additionally, obviously, we're going to see uses of Valkyrie. She's making her return. Even as a 6-star, she's still going to be deadly, especially due to her ability to ignore Unstoppable. In some matchups, that's going to be crucial. Shang-Chi, level 2 in a block. Need I say anything more? Additionally, if Awakened Shang-Chi is, he can perform critical hits through the block, and personal abilities that trigger on critical hits will trigger through the block as well. You're still going to be able to ramp him and so on and so forth. So either way, Shang-Chi is going to be dangerous. Besides that, we obviously have Massacre. I'm sure you guys knew that. Now this guy is going to be especially dangerous because, well, nothing really good happens when you hit his block, right? He's going to get his charges. He's going to go unstoppable. He's got the damage caps up there. So Korg is going to be quite vital for defense as well. Now, Kate Bishop. And the trick with Kate Bishop in this meta is you have to use your Crypto Arrow on level 2 because the final hit bombards the opponent, but this applies through block. So with Kate Bishop, just get through level 2 and you're going to take down just about anybody with that level 2 instantly because it's going to be an absolutely insane amount of cold snap damage. And then there's Bullseye. And Bullseye is also great defensively and offensively because number 1, if you take Bullseye's level 1 in the block, you're just dead. It's all critical. All the bleed damage and effects are also increased. And yeah, it is much better to try and dex it and get hit in the face than it is to take it in block. Bullseye is going to be a menace. But he's also a menace offensively. Because, well, it's guaranteed critical hits. And also the bleed damage gets increased. And yeah, so he's very powerful in the Invade meta. Moving on, from tech champions, we do have Red Skull that works probably, as one of the better options for tech class, because tech class in general is not going to be doing too great. The reason why Red Skull works well is because he still gains power, he still builds up his armor ups, and also with that you further increase your armor rating, and then you can just drop your level 2, and yeah, he still works somewhat fine. And obviously on defense, not necessarily the type of guy you do want to mash up, hidden block with. So Red Skull, again, very dangerous because you don't want to be hitting his block. And often, in dealing with Red Skull, you kind of have to reparry and stuff like that to get that opening safely. And it's not going to be a good time. It just is not going to be a good time against Red Skull without proper counter. Cyan Spider-Man will work fairly well enough. I am including him because you kind of have to run him in order to be able to deal with Zola and a handful of other matchups. But the key here is going to be that, he's not the type of character that you will want to hit opponents block a lot with. You will play him normally, but he's still going to be kind of needed. Obviously, speaking of tech champions, Zola is just crazy because, well, you don't want to be hitting his block to begin with, because as we all know that whenever you do hit his block, then he gains his charges. That's it. So he's going to be chunky and he's going to be a problem, and therefore champions like Starkey are absolutely going to be needed, because there aren't too many great options for Zola in the Invade meta. Especially if you have Energize and his combat power rate, if you're betting on level 1s, get increased further. Now Domino is actually not that bad. Domino can be taken down with, a handful of champions, but still you do need to be worried about that. Speaking of champion that is going to be annoying, is definitely going to be Dust, another, champion where you do not want to be striking her block, because that gives you, the stand debuffs on, and she's going to enter her standstorm, so you do kind of have to fight her normally. And when you do that, you have to bait out the level 1s for most part, because level 2 is quite tricky dex, and if that is going to hit you in the block, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. So Dust is going to be an issue. And then we do have Jean Grey as well. Because unless you're using a reverse control immune champion, you'd have to be very, very adept at fighting Jean Grey in order to be able to, quickly react, in your, controls do or do not get reversed. And if she is going to grab and hit your block, then, it's going to hurt a lot. So Jean Grey, I do kind of expect to be a very nasty opposition as well. This one's more theoretical. I hadn't tested it out yet, but in theory it should be quite rough time unless you are using reverse control immune champion, which not too many of are going to be doing that great, I think. And another one that's quite interesting, and this I don't expect to be run by everyone, but not Star. Because of his multi-hit combos, he's going to get his specials very, very quickly. And then you can actually build him up very well, and his bursts also do get increased, and yeah, I do think he could be a problem. Also, with Energize being active and his level 2 being hard to dex, he might have some defensive value. And I definitely know that offensively he can be quite successful in this meta, because I am actually testing out Quicksilver myself, and Quicksilver is doing a fairly good job for me. So there is that. Then there's Photon. Obviously, Photon's just going to be, solid. Photon's going to be easier to take down than regular with specific champions like Bullseye and Yelena, and, a handful of other champions are going to deal with Photon quite well. But it is important to note that Photon's also going to be countering the kinetic transference node. So whenever you are striking Photon and you're going to get debuff on you, there's going to be that Petrify placed on you. And you're going to be getting less power than normal. So via that virtue, she's going to be able to extend some of the fights. And then offensively, obviously, she is going to work more than well enough, because for every debuff on the opponent, their block proficiency is further reduced. So you can kind of, lay in a mixture of hitting opponent's block and hitting them regularly. And then, further reduce their block proficiency and do even more damage. Then we have Spider-Punk. And Spider-Punk is here for the simple reason that his special 2 inflicts the ruptures through block. And that rupture damage does get multiplied as well, and those ruptures are going to be absolutely massive, to a point where everything is going to be dying from a single level 2. Then we have Spider-Woman, because I do think she is, again, going to be a fairly solid dual-purpose character, because you can use her as normal, or, throw the level 1 in the opponent's blocks and what have you not. But also, she's the type of champion that you do have to push to level 2, and in order to do that, you typically have to take some block damage, and if you don't, well, you kind of have to, because there aren't too many champions who don't. Additionally, she's quite likely to activate her level 1, and all the effects of level 1 do get inflicted through block, and that is going to hurt a lot. And her level 1 is possible to dex, but I don't think there are too many people who can do it right now. And then there's still going to be the Invade, and there's going to be everything else. So it is going to be interesting to see how well she does, but in theory, she should be quite well. And then, offensively speaking, I think Titania is going to be back in people's decks to a reliable standard, because you will be able to build her level 3 just by striking opponent's blocks. If need be, you can utilize the Haymaker to tank like an opponent's special attack as well. And additionally to that, finish her with a normal rotation, and life's going to be good. So yeah, Titania, there shouldn't be much of an issue running Titania, and she should be putting in quite a bit of work. As I mentioned before, Quicksilver is actually doing quite decent for me. Now, this is the tricky champion, because I haven't tested this myself, but I have it on fairly good authority from a handful of people who did. This guy's insane. because somehow is it either bugged interaction or not, but effectively you're gonna hit him a couple of times and he's immediately gonna be, you know, shooting up to red, and he's gonna be getting a ton of power. So it will be quite difficult to deal with him, because you will not be able to do it while hitting his block too well. And then obviously his specials are quite difficult to fully dex, and if you block that, that's gonna be a lot of damage. And at the very least, it does seem that he could be one of those auto ban type of champion situations. So we'll see what happens, Count Nefaria, but I do want to test this out myself. I did not manage to do that in the off season, but I heard from some very, very skilled players that he's going to be an absolute menace. Moving on, we have Kindred, and Kindred is going to be also so frightful that I ended up running my 6-star again in the Invade meta in the friendlies, and the main reason for that is because it's quick special attack closing window, and he's level 1. Because typically the way you fight Kindred, the way you kind of have to fight Kindred, is you take that level 1 hit in the block. Because it's very, very difficult, borderline, you know, impossible to reliably punish the level 1 without taking the level 1 hit in the block, and that hurts a lot. Like on Invade, to take that one level 1 hit in the block, all the difference maker is going to take like 20-30% of your health. And obviously it's still Kindred, it's still going to be dangerous at the end of the fight. But yeah, he's a menace. He's one of those champions I was dreading to fight in Invade meta, and still absolutely is so. Now there's Tigra, who can phase through that level 1 hit, and there will be a handful of other, you know, options, but I don't think there's too many. I honestly don't think there are too many options here. The Jugs will be still doing Jugs things. There's not too much about that. Just one note is that often with Jugs, the way you play against a handful of characters is you let them hit your block, and then you effectively use your unstoppable kind of like as a counter punch charge. You don't want to be doing that in this meta, but Jugs is still going to be solid. Then we have Kushala. Obviously, Kushala has the option of regenerating up to 75% damage taken from blocked hits. Now, you do... Well, I mean, you're going to end up taking some damage there, but she, you know, could be very much better than just about anybody else in some specific fights that we're going to discuss later. Then we have Enchantress, and Enchantress is just a nightmare in this meta. And that comes from several reasons. Like, Enchantress is just answer in an Invade meta. She used to be even worse before Kabam took away the kinetic absorption node. But the problem with Enchantress is like threefold. Number one, we have regular issues with Enchantress. Because, you know, the unstoppable, the, you know, not being able to intercept her if AI doesn't want to. So, you know, that's the regular issue. The increased issue is that by default, you basically, eventually in the fight, will have to bait out heavy attack. You typically do that by taking a couple of hits in the block. Well, now it's going to be significantly more painful, so you kind of don't want to do that. So you're going to be hoping that AI throws that heavy attack, and if she doesn't, just screwed. And even if she does, there's still the chance that you're going to miss, you know, depending on what spells are active or something else is going to go wrong. But the fact that you have to bait out the heavies is a problem. Second problem is the increased combat power rate. 50% increased combat power rate. Enchantress is just more effective in any meta where she gets extra power. And that includes this one. And the last one would be that you are obviously borderline required to dex out of the level 1. Because if you can take that level 1 in the block, it's again gonna hurt a lot more. So now it's doable, it's possible. We had to fight Enchantress with unblockable level 1, but I don't know how about you guys. I did not have 100% success rate on that. So yeah, Enchantress is just evil. Evil in this meta. Moving on, Werewolf should be a quite good attacker, because number one, you can attack opponent through block almost exclusively with Werewolf, which is tremendously useful in this meta. Obviously increased amount of damage and attack, and you know, Raptures will get increased, everything of the sort. Additionally, you can fight in a way where you give opponent very little amount of power by the time you get level 2, and then you can go for the nuke. So Wolf is going to be good, for sure. Then Serpent. Serpent again has like 2, maybe 3 counters. I mean, this meta, again, one of those where if you face Serpent, you're probably gonna lose. Like if you take Serpent special and block, you just, or almost then, like couple specials. So what are your options of not taking the block? Well, that can involve, exceptional play with Tigra. That can work fine. But even with Tigra, you often do end up taking like a hit and block, but you can do it without. Then there's Spiral. You can dex his, level 2, for instance. But again, you do need to be very, very good with Spiral. And the fight needs to go well to be able to do this fine. There's Kushala that can regenerate a significant portion of the damage in the block. But still, it's not going to be great. And then there's still obviously Silk Lock, while Kabam hasn't fixed that. Is there anything else? I don't think so, man. Serpent's going to be wrecking. Like, Shatra is not an option here. Like, America Chavez is not an option here. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough to deal with Serpents. I mean, Nico is probably an option, but everybody's gonna ban that. Alright, Thanos is obviously still a menace here because he's just gonna be a menace. He's gonna be offensively great, defensively great. Trust me on this one. Thanos is a menace. Now we have Dark Phoenix as well. So you don't want to be betting on her level 1s ever, anyways. But level 2s, I don't know how you're good at fully dexing that level 2, but she already typically does inflict quite a lot of block damage. But now, block damage is going to be très bien. So if you're going up against Dark Phoenix, it's going to be quite painful. And the last bit is, obviously, she's not the type of champion you typically want to give extra power to either, because she's going to be throwing more special attacks. So there's going to be very few counters to this too. So Invade meta is going to be nasty, man. Obviously we have Nova, because Nova is just a fairly solid option, both defensively and offensively. Dual purpose champion. He can do a lot of damage through block, especially due to his own abilities, and then he's also the type of champion that you do never ever want to block. So Nova can put in work as well. And then obviously have to mention Hulkling. Hulkling is probably making a comeback. Even as a 6-star, he's going to be able to nuke a significant portion of the champions. And then we have Punisher 2099. Again, here, honestly, I'm considering the level of insane, defense of Serpent and Enchantress and a handful. I'm not even that bothered by this guy. His specials are obviously an impossible dex. When you fight him, you are either able to nuke him very, very quickly, or you just try to dex that level 1. And then if it clips you, you take a little bit of a damage. It's far from the worst thing that can happen. But next meta is going to be wild. You guys thought this meta is going to be hard? Next meta is going to be harder, I promise you. Just because in next meta, there are like 6 to 8 champions that are borderline win condition. In next meta, there are like 6 to 8 champions that, realistically speaking, majority of the time you're just not taking down at all, or you're not doing it with much health left. And that's gonna be it. That is going to be rough. It's gonna be a wild meta because in between, Punisher 2099 basically giving you guaranteed damage, in between Dark Phoenix, in between Thanos, in between Serpent, in between Enchantress, whatever she was, in between Yelena, in between Count Nefaria, from what I hear, in between Bullseye. It's not gonna be a good time. Telling you, it's not gonna be a good time. But hey, we're all gonna survive that together. Let me know what you guys think and what were the results of your testing. I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all been